Okay, so here we are. It's week 4, it's paper week, and so essentially the way that paper weeks work is that you don't have to worry about webcam on paper weeks. What normally happens is that on Wednesday you will have uploaded your rough draft. And so take a look at the syllabus because I do have a specific grade for the rough draft. 50 is completed, 25 not so much, and 0 probably even worse than that. And I say something is not completed if you're missing your sources, if it's formatted incorrectly, that sort of stuff. Your paper should be ready to go, and people shouldn't have to say things like, oh, you need to do your formatting correctly or something of that nature. And so keep that in mind. So by Wednesday midnight, you should have uploaded your rough draft of your paper. By Friday, 2 things need to happen. Well, 3 if you want to parse it. 2 things need to happen. You have to have both of your discussion boards where you respond to somebody else's rough draft having read it, okay? And so you'll say, oh, here's Kristen. She did this. She talked about this and she talked about this. I think she needs to improve in these areas, and that's the key to that. When you respond to other people's rough drafts, don't worry about telling them it's great. This isn't an ego boosting session. There's no such thing as a great rough draft. There's no such thing as a perfect rough draft. There are things as flawed rough drafts and rough drafts that need a lot of polishing. And so I encourage everyone to think about 2 or 3 things that the author could improve on their rough draft. And of course, if you see major issues like they didn't put an MLA style or they're missing parenthetical cites, all of that stuff, make sure that you tell them that as well. And then by Friday at midnight, you'll be turning in your final version of that rough draft, which will be now the final draft, through turnitin.com. So it would behoove all of you to, on Thursday evening, Friday morning, provide feedback for people before they have to turn in that final draft. Of course, if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask. Now, 2 other things before you do this stuff. You have a whole bunch of resources that are out there for you, and these are resources that you're responsible for. These are resources that you're going to get dinged on if you make those mistakes and you didn't watch the video or you didn't comprehend the video, something like that. So, number 1, MLA style. You'll find the video for MLA style under course documents. Make sure you watch that. Make sure you understand what MLA style is. There is a little Seagull handbook. This little dude. And so that has MLA style stuff in it as well. Parenthetical cites, you have your works cited page, all of that basically, get that back in there, is your responsibility. And so make sure that it's polished. I'll be posting the rubric for what I'm looking at for all of your papers as well. Along those same lines, you have your causal analysis essay write-up. Make sure you look at that under the assignments tab. It tells you how you should be approaching causal analysis, and keep in mind that you're writing about education, issues in the field of education. Could be a number of things. It could be teaching sex ed. It could be corporal punishment. It could be sexual assault on campuses, higher ed campuses. It could be school uniform. Anything that you can think of that has to fall into the field of basically pre-K through post-secondary ed is entirely up to you. It could be diversity in hiring. Anything that you can think of, really, is fair game so long as you can find the research for it. So your causal analysis write-up is available under the assignments tab. If you go back to the course documents tab, not only is your MLA style presentation there, which you should be responsible for, but also my brief lecture on the paper itself, how to approach it, how to put it together. Everything is, I think, called the causal analysis presentation. So feel free to watch that. You're responsible for the content in that. And then also, there's another presentation that many of you might have seen as a part of the plagiarism module, and I've recopied it and put it over in this because it's just useful. But using quotes and sources. So make sure that you check out that. That is also under course documents, if I remember. I'm trying to check it out down here. I can't see it. But it's also under course documents as well, and talks about how to cite things correctly. But more importantly, it talks about how to incorporate quotes and research into what you're trying to do. One thing that a lot of beginning writing students mess up, I guess, or make mistakes on is copying and pasting stuff. So I find this really cool thing and I want to share it, so I'm going to just copy and paste this 3-line sentence and drop that bad boy right into my paper. The problem is, though, what happens is, and if I catch you doing this is my philosophy. This is college composition, not college copy and paste. And a lot of you have completed the plagiarism module, knew that was coming. But you shouldn't be copying and pasting stuff, period, at all. You should be thinking about ways to incorporate the information into what you're doing and citing it correctly along the way. So make sure you're keeping an eye on that. What I do is, if I have a student that has an original sentence and then copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste, original sentence, copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste, which happens more than you would think. If that happens, normally what I do is I take the relative percentage of those sentences. So I'll take a look and I'll say, okay, you wrote 5 original sentences. It's going to be like 25% of your entire paper. So the maximum you can do is 25. And I'm going to grade from there. So yes, that means if you only write 25% of an assignment, I'm only going to give you credit for 25% of it. That doesn't mean that there won't be times where you won't need a full quote, okay? But even when you're using a full quote, you need to be sandwiching it, telling what that quote is, what it's about, putting it within the grammar and context of your research, and then making sure you're citing it as well, and then backing back out of that quote also. So there's no such thing as just copying and pasting that stuff in there and saying, I wrote a paper, because there's all sorts of things that can occur with that. At the very least, you're not writing. At the very worst, you're plagiarizing. So keep all of that stuff in mind. So again, Wednesday, rough draft is up. Don't have to worry about webcams on paper weeks. Friday, 2 responses that are critical responses to other people's rough drafts. Friday night, your final paper coming through Turnitin. Things that you're going to be responsible for, stuff on the rubric, which I'll be posting, MLA style, causal analysis write-up that I have, the causal analysis presentation that's out there, and then using sources and quotes, that presentation as well. They are all under assignments and course documents. They've been there since the beginning, so many of you, I can see, have already accessed them. Whether or not you watch them, I don't know, carefully at least. And so just kind of make sure that you're keeping up with the material and that you're being responsible with what I'm presenting to you. Again, the rubric will be posted there for you to take a look at. I encourage you to check your paper against the rubric. And if you find yourself giving yourself a bad grade or something like that, then you probably want to go back and correct some of these things and see if you can boost your own interpretation of the rubric. But that will be posted as well. So other than that, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Again, rough draft weeks, no cams, just basically by Wednesday, rough draft, Friday, final draft responses, Friday at midnight, Turnitin.com, final draft. Remember, with Turnitin.com, I have the announcements up there, but I'll throw this in there as well. Don't copy and paste. It gives you the option to copy and paste your paper in there, but if you do, it strips out all of your formatting, and then your formatting grade won't be very, very nice. Just make sure you upload that as a document. Other than that, if you have any questions, feel free to ask as always.